A man named John wakes up from a dream where he acts as a hero cop who saves some kids and prevents an accident. His niece, Penny, laughs at him when he wakes up, and she tells him about an event at her school where parents usually come to talk about their careers. John says he won't be able to come because he'll be busy at work, and even though she's disappointed, Penny says it's fine. She then asks John if he has gotten a feedback letter regarding his application to become a cop, but John says it was rejected because he only has 2 years of experience as a security guard. Penny tells him not to be disappointed, and John says he won't be, though he feels he can be useful as a cop. Just then, Penny remembers that John doesn't have work the next day, and he lied about it earlier. He confesses and says he doesn't want her friends to mock her because he works as a security guard. He also says he was hoping he'd have gotten the job as a cop, so he would have come with his badge. But Penny hugs him and says she doesn't care about that, and she's proud of him. Elsewhere, a lady named Brenda is working with her father, Artemis, to get a robotic foot to move. As Brenda inserts a chip she believes will allow it to work, she then tells her dad, who wears headgear connected to the foot, to tap his own foot. But the robotic foot doesn't move, and since they've been trying it for a while, Artemis says he's hungry. While she is trying to prepare something for him, he closes his eyes and starts tapping his foot, and as Brenda looks, she sees that the robotic foot is moving. However, it stops moving when Artemis opens his eyes. Brenda then asks what Artemis was thinking about while his eyes were closed. As he says he was thinking about how Brenda looks like her mother, Brenda realizes that the foot only moves by will and not by thought. She asks him to try what he did earlier, and this makes the foot move again. Since this is very important for their project, which is to use the chip to create a RoboCop, Brenda and Artemis are happy to have made a significant breakthrough with the foot, which will be the basis of their work. Later that night, while John is at his duty post in the lab where Brenda works, he admires her from the CCTV footage and decides to go and see her. Elsewhere, a man named Skolex is also looking at Brenda from his secret camera and waiting for her to leave the lab with the intention of breaking in and stealing the robotic foot so he can make his own robots. John then meets Brenda at the parking lot and tells her about the book he borrowed from Artemis. He also mentions how the book is good for him because he's hoping to become a real cop soon. John adds that he just wants to help people, and Brenda says it's a good thing. She, however, says she needs to go back to the lab because she forgot her car key. Meanwhile, Skolex tells his driver, Sykes, to release their remote control van, which will be used to steal the robotic foot. But their cat disturbs Sykes as he's controlling the van, and this allows it to crash against a wall leading to the lab. John's colleague immediately alerts him that someone has broken into the lab, and he runs there to find Brenda. Before he gets there, Sykes has gotten into the lab with the van, and he has also released other robots that help to steal the robotic foot. As Artemis tries to stop the robbery, Skolex controls one of the robots to shoot Artemis and kill him. After this, the van leaves the lab and heads away. Just then, John arrives and sees Brenda crying as she holds her dead father. He looks upset and tells her he won't stop until he finds whoever is responsible. He runs out and enters his car to chase down the van. As he's doing this, Skolex sees him and tells Sykes that they're being followed. Sykes pushes a button in the limo to unleash an oil slick on the road, and this makes John lose control of his car and eventually crash badly, with his car turning upside down. As Sykes and Skolex stop to laugh at him, a billboard falls on the limo. While still in his car wreck, John tells them to step out of the limo and surrender. However, Skolex lights a cigar and throws it at John's car. This causes an explosion that blows up John's car, though a bowling ball in his car eventually lands on Skolex's hand inside the limo, causing him to scream. Shortly after, Penny arrives at the hospital to see John. As Brenda directs her to where John is, Penny sees that he's badly injured and has bandages all over his body. Meanwhile, the lead doctor at the hospital tells Brenda that there's nothing they can do to save John because his organs and other parts of his body were badly damaged during the explosion. However, Brenda says they need to look for a way because John wouldn't be in the situation if he weren't trying to capture her father's killer. As Brenda is still talking to the doctors, the mayor and the police chief, Quimby, arrive at the hospital. The mayor starts by sharing her condolences before asking Brenda how soon she can complete the robot project. she and Artemis were working on. Brenda says she's sure Artemis would want her to complete the project as soon as possible, and she'll be using John as her test subject by replacing all his missing organs with robot parts, so he can be a RoboCop. The mayor and Quimby laugh about John's condition, and they also ask if he's the right person to go through the transformation. Brenda says her father always told her that when the right person comes, she'll know, and with John, she believes he's the best fit for the project. With this, Brenda and the doctors begin work on John's body. While the mayor and Quimby watch the operation from outside the room, the mayor says having a RoboCop will be good, as he will be more useful than Quimby and his men. Quimby doesn't seem to like this, but says nothing. The mayor then asks if Quimby has gotten any information about Artemis's murder and what was stolen at the lab. Quimby says they still have no idea who did it, but the person stole a robotic foot from the lab. This leaves the mayor looking confused as to why someone would steal a foot. Elsewhere, Skolex is at his lab, where a scientist named Kramer makes him a metal claw as a replacement for his broken hand. After trying out the claw, Skolex tells Sykes to bring the robotic foot so Kramer can start working on it. Meanwhile, John wakes up but can't seem to control his body. As he struggles to move and looks at himself in the mirror, a screw gets loose in his body and his fingers open up with several tools. His leg also releases a missile that creates a hole in the wall. He runs out of his room and bumps into Brenda. John says he doesn't remember what happened to him, and Brenda says it will take some time because of how bad the accident was. She also tells him he's now a RoboCop, and even though he doesn't take it well at first, Brenda says it was the only way they could save him. She then says it is a good opportunity for him because he's going to be the first RoboCop in the city and he'll be able to help people. Elsewhere, Kramer finishes working on the robotic foot, but Skolex can still not control it to move, and he soon realizes he needs a chip to make it work. The next day, Brenda starts telling John about the parts of his body and how the chip is the most important one. She also gives him a manual, and after he takes a look at it, Brenda also shows him what he'll now be wearing. A while later, she takes him outside to try out his abilities, though he only ends up splashing toothpaste all over the place. After the tests, she shows him the car he'll use to fight crime, called the Gadget Mobile. The car is very sophisticated, and when John takes it out to test it, the car is able to talk and also take him around. John gets his first piece of action when two convicts try to steal a car after escaping from prison. Even though he initially doesn't know what the men are doing, the Gadget Mobile alerts him, and together they take down both prisoners, with a crowd then cheering John afterward. Meanwhile, John's heroic act makes the news. Skolex sees this and recognizes John as the security guard he tried to kill. As it is also reported that John will be inducted into the police force the next day, Skolex tells Sykes to prepare his tuxedo because he'll be going there to execute a plan. The next day, during the event, Brenda asks John to dance with her. While they're dancing, Skolex interrupts them and introduces himself to Brenda, saying he was her classmate at Harvard. Brenda doesn't recognize him, but he tells her he has changed a lot. John looks jealous and leaves them to get something to drink. After he leaves, Skolex tells Brenda that he's proud of the work she has been doing and he wants her to come and work for his company, Skolex Industries. John shows up before they can conclude their conversation and Skolex has to leave. Brenda then seems happy as she tells John about the job offer she got from Skolex, which will include unlimited funding and access to many opportunities. John doesn't look happy with this, but shortly after, he gets invited for pictures with the mayor. While standing next to Quimby, John asks when he'll be able to work on Artemis's murder case. However, Quimby says he has the exact kind of work that John would be useful for. In the days that pass, John is left with doing really minor police work, and he gets tired of it and goes to complain to Quimby. When John gets to his office, he says he wants to be put on Artemis's murder case, but Quimby says he'll never put him on it because he's not a real police officer. He also calls John a mere publicity stunt by the mayor to win the election. He then sends John out of his office. That same day, Skolex taps into Brenda's private data and steals her research, so he's able to create his own chip. Even though Kramer says it's bad, Skolex doesn't have a problem with it, as it was the reason he brought her to start working at his company. After creating the chip, he inserts it into a robot that looks just like John, and with this, Skolex instructs the robot to start causing chaos in the city. Elsewhere, John sneaks into the file room in the police department. He takes the file on Artemis's murder and looks at everything that has been found, including a small piece of metal that was found at the lab the night Artemis was killed. John zooms in on the metal and sees that the letters SI are inscribed on it. This leaves him confused, and he starts wondering what it could mean. After John leaves the police department, he picks up Penny from school, and together they start wondering what the letters on the metal could mean. Just then, a van with the words Skolex Industries passes beside them, and with Penny's help, John realizes that SI is short for Skolex Industries. Immediately, John discovers that Skolex could be responsible for stealing the robotic foot and killing Artemis. He then drives the Gadget mobile to Skolex Industries to warn Brenda. Meanwhile, Skolex's evil robot starts terrorizing the city, and it also makes the news, with everyone believing it's John. Brenda also watches the news, and just as she wonders what could be wrong with him, John appears by her window and tells her to lock her door and stay away from Skolex because he's evil. Before she can say anything, John leaves and finds his way into the lab, where Skolex is hiding the robotic foot. Despite John trying to take it out sneakily, the sensors in the room alert Sykes that someone is trying to steal the foot, and before John can escape, he is caught. Brenda leaves her office and is shocked to see a robot that looks like her. The robot says she was created by Skolex. As they go out together, she mentions that Skolex doesn't have time for her because he's always talking about a robotic foot. With this, Brenda realizes that Skolex is the one who stole the foot and killed her father, Artemis. When Skolex gets to the lab, he's happy to see that John has been caught. He also mentions that his true intentions are to create an evil robot army that can be sold to powerful people. John says he won't get away with it, but Skolex says nothing can happen to him. He then instructs Kramer to remove the chip inside John's body. When Kramer is unable to do it, Skolex does it by himself, and John's power unit shuts down. Skolex then tells Sykes to throw John's body away in the junkyard. Elsewhere, Brenda goes to look for John at his house, but she doesn't see anyone home. Before she leaves, she sees Penny arrive in the Gadget mobile. Brenda asks where John is, but Penny says she thought he was with her. Brenda realizes that John must be in trouble, and she pinpoints his location from the car, after which she heads there with Penny. When they finally get to the junkyard, they see John without the chip, and Brenda says he won't be able to come back on without it. However, just as she and Penny look really sad about this, John wakes up, and they're happy to see him alive again. They immediately get back into the car to look for Skolex and put an end to his plan. The Gadget mobile drops Penny off at home before speeding to locate Skolex, who is inside his limo with his evil robot. As they see the limo, Brenda helps John so that he can break through the rear glass of the car and show himself to Skolex. Despite saying Skolex and his robot are under arrest, Skolex laughs at John and orders his robot to attack him. The evil robot punches John off the limo, but he's able to still hang on. He eventually gets closer to the limo, but Skolex instructs his robot to kill John. This leads to a serious fight between John and his evil lookalike after they get away from the limo, with Brenda following Skolex to his company. When he gets there, he immediately wants to run inside to destroy the robotic foot, which is evidence that he killed Artemis. However, Brenda arrives with the Gadget mobile and crushes Skolex's limo. As she steps out and punches him for killing her father, he grabs her and takes her into the building while he tells Sykes to get rid of the foot. Shortly after, Penny arrives at Skolex Industries and tells the Gadget mobile that she's there to help John get the evidence, to clear his name and get Skolex arrested. As she gets inside, she sees Sykes trying to flush down the foot. At first, he is shocked to see her, but she manages to handle the situation well by saying nice things that make him rethink working for Skolex and doing evil things for him. After a long period of fighting, John finally breaks off the head of the robot before throwing it into the sea. He then heads to Skolex Industries, where he sees him trying to escape with Brenda in a helicopter, even though she doesn't want to leave with him. As Skolex sees John, he initially shoots a missile at him, but when it doesn't kill him, he uses the helicopter's landing skids to grab John, so he can throw him off the roof. However, John is able to throw a tiny pin into the helicopter to make Skolex lose control of his claw. As Skolex tries to make it work again, Brenda punches him several times, and John tells her to jump on his back so they can get down before the helicopter crashes. Even though she's scared, Brenda does this, and John is able to get them down, though he crashes against Skolex's statue, which also falls. John and Brenda land in a fountain, and while they're in there, Brenda asks John if he's okay. As he answers her, Brenda realizes that he likes her. After she also tells him she feels the same way about him, they see Skolex use a parachute to get down and land inside the Gadget mobile, where he is then locked in a cage. Skolex claims there's no evidence to get him, but Penny comes out with Sykes, who tells the police all the things Skolex did, including creating an evil version of John. This allows the police to leave John, who looks happy with what Penny was able to do. Just then, the mayor arrives and takes credit for approving the development of a RoboCop. Before Skolex is taken away in a police car, he calls John and says he'll be back. However, John holds on to Brenda, and they happily leave the scene together. Thanks for tuning in. A thumbs up would be amazing because I've got some bills to pay.
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right?